Hello and welcome to today's edition of the Wealthy Lightworker. I am so excited to share Demetria with you all. Welcome, Demetria.
Thank you.
We are very blessed to have you on this summit. You are a certified intuitive energy practitioner. You are an authentic freedom activator. You hosted your own summit called the Soul Freedom Summit, and you had some incredible leaders on that. And today we're going to be talking about how wealth is an inside job. Love that. So welcome. And before we get started, before we jump in, let's go ahead and do what we do and take a nice deep breath. Awesome. All right. So Demetria, you have a really interesting work history. So you were a CPA and now you're a healer and a light worker. How did that journey happen?
Yeah. Thanks for asking that. Yeah, pretty a lot of contrast, a stark contrast. So I definitely have to kind of start, I guess, from the beginning to explain.
Yeah, do that.
I would say since I was young, I had a respect for balance. Even when I would go off kind of balance a little bit, it's like I always wanted to come back to balance.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that accounting, there was always a definite answer. It was black and white. There was really no gray. There was no really potential for getting too lost.
Mm-hmm.
And so I appreciated that aspect of accounting, is that I could definitely find an answer.
Mm-hmm.
And as that's carried forward, I went into that discipline and I certainly discovered a lot about myself, strengths and weaknesses. And I think anybody listening to this is maybe going through their own journey of maybe they did things or made some choices that were more based on how they were conditioned.
Sure.
And what their beliefs were, that they, not beliefs of your own, really. I mean, beliefs that you inherited from your family, from the educational system that you were a part of, or society, the media.
Yeah.
So that definitely played a significant role in my earlier decisions versus where I'm at now, where my decisions are much more based out of the heart and I would say soul guided. But I did discover, when I look back at that time, there was a lot that I gained and that I learned from that period. And what I discovered is that money is not a path to freedom. Even though you will hear business coaches tell you that every single day, that money is an avenue for freedom. And, when I was a CPA, I mean, all of the clients had at least $1 million. That was a requirement to be one of our clients at that firm. You have to have I think it was like a net income of at least $1 million to be a client. And what I know and what I know now is that they were not free. I mean, they had multiple millions of dollars and they were still not free. So I kind of went on this journey. Okay, so if it's not really money, that's not the path to freedom, then what is? And that's kind of led me on this journey into the heart, into the soul. Money is like, this is the way I've kind of seen it. Money is like, there's different analogies. Money is a relationship. That is correct. I agree with that. Money can be seen. It represents flow. It represents circulation. Okay. So you can even look at it like, if you look at the human body, red blood cells have kind of the same purpose as money does on the external. And if we're a reflection, if the body is a microcosm and the earth is a macrocosm. You could say money is the macro level of what red blood cells do to the body. They carry nutrients throughout the different organs. Okay. So, and then another analogy is money is kind of like emotions, often misunderstood.
Sure.
But they need to be seen, need to be heard. And at the same time, they can't be the guiding force. They can't be the guiding light for your decisions. So I hope that helps some people.
Both of those analogies. In fact, let's take a moment and like unpack them a little bit further, because I think that that's just brilliant in a really great way. And this topic of circulation has come up in a couple other interviews as well. And I think it's really important to talk about, because it's not, again, the mindset that we were brought up with. We were brought up with this idea that money is somehow a finite amount, and to circulate it, right, is somehow a negative thing. And then also the circulation of resources. So let's talk about that. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Money is circulation.
Yeah.
So when we look at money as flow, as circulation, we can kind of see how you would never wake up in the morning and say to yourself, I need to hustle to produce red blood cells today.
Yes.
So if you would not say that or do that and know that that would work, then why would you think that that would actually happen with money? Okay. So, and that's I use that example because I've heard it so many times in the coaching community.
The hustle.
Yeah, the hustle. We got to hustle. And so there's a flow, right? So there has to be a little bit of a surrender. You know, you're kind of surrendering to a greater intelligence, and you're trusting that intelligence through the heart, using the different organs of your body to distribute. You know, you're trusting that your body is doing what it's supposed to be doing. Yeah. You're not intervening. You're not jumping in there and trying to move around those red blood cells. So I feel like this is a really important message for many people. I think the other side of that coin is, in the Lightworker community, there's some strong beliefs over many, many lifetimes that money is evil.
Yes.
I mean, you certainly would not want to, this is a fundamental part of your system that you want to honor. It's sacred.
It's fundamental. Yeah.
It's a fundamental part of the flow of nature. And just like there is no shortage, of breath, there's no shortage of blood cells. When you can kind of surrender to the greater intelligence, and you can surrender to nature as your guiding force, then all will be supplied to you. That is extremely difficult to trust in when your external circumstances are not evidencing that. So basically, the level of trust that you would have to have and the level of surrender is what I would call you're in kind of like the fast track. You're in the rigorous program of being able to manifest. But if you can still surrender, even in very challenging circumstances, and trust the higher intelligence to distribute the red blood cells appropriately, just like money, and just listen to the guidance. That's why we have the mind, is really just to give us ideas that we will flow towards. And that's where the importance is. It's like, what ideas are coming from the heart and the soul, and what ideas are sort of coming from the labyrinth of the mind that thinks it's independent of the grand system. So
I love that. And I love that. I think that is just so dead on. And it's such a beautiful analogy, because you also can extrapolate that, like, when we are feeling overworked, when we're exhausted, when our bodies are not being fed healthy foods, when we're, constantly on the grind, our red blood cells are going to have a tough time. you know, and they might show up when we need them, but they might not. And when they don't, it's because our bodies are being compromised and things aren't really working the way that they're supposed to. High blood pressure, like things like that, you can go too far, right? And I think that that's such an important piece of this is, like you said, surrendering, allowing, and trusting. And I love that you said, like, for some of us, when our external circumstances don't mirror, you know, the most, when they're really dire, that's when we have to do the most trusting. Have you been through anything like that personally? Like, can you speak to that in your own life where you've had to kind of take that leap of faith?
I sure can. Yeah, I sure can. Where do I start? I would say I came from humble beginnings. So definitely, growing up, there was 5 of us, 5 kids in this kind of small housing. And, I always watched my parents work really, really hard. So there was this, like, you got to work hard for money mentality that I had to kind of face. And then, things were pretty smooth, but yeah, in the last 10 years have been a pretty intense, inner journey. And so, yes, I had to leave a marriage. I had to leave a very stable job with the government that was very secure. It was flexible. It was stable. It was good pay. I mean, everyone thought I was crazy for leaving the job, but it just wasn't. It was not in alignment with my soul. And that's an understatement when I say that. It just, I couldn't live the lie anymore. There's a point where you contort yourself to kind of fit into certain circumstances, and you kind of bend and you twist. And then there's a point where the contortion is just too uncomfortable. Yeah. So I had to leave some very difficult, and I have kids. That I have to take care of. I'm far away from any kind of security system, family network. So yeah, I've definitely had to face what it looks like, living situation. Am I going to be able to pay the rent? So it is absolutely, that's why I want to say to anybody who might be struggling, financially right now, and, they're listening to their soul, but it's like, they're not seeing the material. Yeah. They're like, okay, this sounds all great, but I need to pay my rent. Right. Really still just keep going, because we've done it. The thing is, we've tried it the other way and it doesn't work. We've all tried to hustle for money. We've all tried to work our butts off for money, and it doesn't work. Okay. What does that lead to? Just turn on the TV and listen to stories of people who are working 12 hours a day. Most of them don't even have enough money to pay their bills. And then they have health problems to deal with, and kids who've been neglected on top of it. Yes. So, it's still like, really go in and surrender. I really invite that surrendering from the mind and the storytelling about what's going on, and surrendering. And why do I say that? Because I know that when you surrender to that greater intelligence that actually accesses not only your whole being, but your whole being as part of a grand totality, you have access to so much more than you can perceive right now. An idea will suddenly come. Yes. An idea will show up, a synchronicity, a phone call, and suddenly it's like, okay, wow, I don't know why I spent all that time worrying. And so I just want to kind of take a moment for us to remember the heart.
It's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I've seen it myself, and it's one of those things that when you go through it, you kind of go, this isn't real. This isn't happening. This really, this is going to show up right when I need it, right at that moment where I was about to give up. And it's so true that like, if we can just look at it as a journey and trust that it will show up, then we don't have to spend all that time on worry and on pain and on suffering. You know, we can focus on what's joyous in this moment. And that actually kind of brings me back to your analogy the other analogy that you used around money, which is that it's like emotions. And I would love to unpack that a little bit more, because like you said, you know, emotions need to be seen, they need to be heard. They're important, but they don't need to run the show.
Oh my gosh, you're so intuitive, because I was literally, that came in my mind too, right before you said that. What just came to me was, we only have one choice. We really only have one true choice. Everything is always happening. It's happening already. Okay. The present moment is as it is.
Mm-hmm.
So our choice, do we accept the present moment? And I'm not saying the circumstance only. I'm also talking about how we're feeling in the present moment, our emotions, you know, the pain, the discomfort in this moment. So our choice is, do we accept it, surrender, and allow the greater intelligence to come in, or do we resist it? Do we resist what we're feeling because someone told us that we're not supposed to be feeling angry, that we're not supposed to feel depressed, and that we need to read all these positive affirmations because we should be thinking positive.
Only positive.
Only positive, only love and light.
Yes.
So and when we're in that love and light, it's wonderful. Yeah. It is absolutely wonderful, but it's not always accessible. When we are in deep despair, joy is not really accessible. And when we believe that we're supposed to be in joy, it actually creates a greater dissonance in the energy and emotional body that actually contributes to a greater shame. So then you actually, you know, if you know the Abraham, I know a lot of people know the Abraham scale, very intelligent how that is. Like, you know, they even say that, like, you can't go from like that depression to joy. It's like, if you're in despair and victim, like, actually anger is actually an improvement in your vibration.
Yes. Yes. It's funny. I actually just pulled a card this morning on this topic, which was from the Osho Zen Tarot deck. And there's Nietzsche has a story, the Zarathustra, I think it's called. And it's this camel becomes a lion, and then the lion is what becomes the child who is finally able to just allow everything to go through. But you need to become a lion first. It's the same thing. Like the placid, depressed camel, it is an improvement to be like, like screw you, screw you, screw you. Like none of this works. That's actually, like you said, that's a higher vibration than just being like, why? Like resisting. At least when you're a lion, you've got fire and you've got anger and you've got, you know, a choice.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a part of the process. I mean, you're going to keep, as you surrender, even when you get angry, I mean, it's going to keep raising. Your vibration is going to keep going up if you allow that anger. Yeah. But if you make yourself wrong for it, and you know, you feel like, no, you should be thinking positive because you're going to attract all these bad things. Right. It's like then you're back down. Right. Like then you're back down the scale.
It should be, and that adds the shame. And like you said, the grows, and that's where the depression comes from. I see it. You know, you are also a mom. I see it with moms so much, where they're like, I don't understand what's wrong with me. I'm sad. What's wrong with me? Well, let yourself be sad, you know, let yourself cry. It feels good. It's okay. You know, I love that. And so bringing it back though, to the money piece, bringing it back to the relationship with money and how emotions, you know, play in, or how this metaphor of emotions plays in.
Right. So like, so you're in this, there's only the present moment, right? So That's the only true moment you have. Okay. And so you accept or you resist. Now, where money plays into that, I agree that money is a relationship. So in the present moment, I'm deciding, okay, I've been given an opportunity to maybe purchase something, or maybe my kids are coming, they say they want something. This happens with a parent all the time. We're faced with these decisions.
Yes.
Here's a big thing that I have discovered. and even my daughter now is actually confirming this. If money is a relationship, would you give your money out to someone, if this is someone you care about, would you give it to someone that has not shown a capacity to handle money? So like my child, my 11-year-old, she wants money. She wants to she finds all this stuff online, and, she's following all the trends, and she wants the new cool thing that's like cool for today, but it's not cool, next week.
Yeah.
And so, so then I'm like, okay, well, I love my child, and I also love my money. Because money has been very supportive to me. So I'm looking at it, and what I find is that it doesn't feel resonant. It doesn't feel resonant. It doesn't feel like I'm honoring my money. If I buy her a Harry Potter t-shirt that I know that she's not going to like in 2 weeks because it's not cool, right? Or whatever the new cool trend is.
Yes.
So I know I'm saying things, I guarantee this is not, most people don't get into this side of it. You'll hear a lot about like, oh, make sure you invest in yourself. And I believe in that, but you want to make sure that it resonates with your heart and your soul. Like, do you really feel a resonance with who you're giving your money to at the soul and the heart level? Not so much because of the mind that they're convincing you that it's going to help you at some point, but you're not feeling it like deep down. That's kind of, so that's where the emotions and money kind of work together.
I love that.
They're messengers, they're messages. They're very significant pieces of the puzzle of our awareness and being able to access our true wisdom.
I love that approach, because you're right. I think a lot of coaches, a lot of teachers are very quick to say you need to invest in yourself. And that is true. Often it's the same coaches that want you to hire them, right? So there's that, which some of them are perfect and wonderful and meant for you.
Yeah.
And the question becomes, how do you know if they're meant for you? And that's where checking in with your heart is so important. And it's a practice. And I think that that's the important thing for people to recognize, that it's a practice, and it's, you start small, you start with little daily things. You don't have to make these big giant decisions, across the board everywhere. If something, and start with little things like, oh, this, you're going to buy something anyways. You resonate with, which one do you resonate with more? Choosing it that way rather than forcing, this like, oh, well, I deserve the best. Well, if in your head you're going, yeah, I might deserve the best, I don't know, hair dryer, but do I need it? Like, does that feel good? Or is that,
does it really make me feel like I'm coming alive? And does it, and looking at the companies that you are supporting, because your money doesn't want to be hoarded up with 57 billion other dollars, it wants to go where it can run free, where it's evenly distributed,
red blood cells, right?
Right. Yeah.
Back to that beautiful analogy. I love that. Oh, Demetria, thank you. Thank you for sharing those metaphors. Both of them, I think, are truly, if we can be reminded of that when we're in the moment, that choice moment, when we have that moment of choice, do we surrender, accept, or do we fight it? Do we resist it? and how that relates to our money, and money just wanting to be loved and appreciated and spread around and just, treated with joy. Thank you. So I definitely want to talk about your free gift that you're offering to the audience. It's the Soul's Dream Map. So tell me, what is a soul's dream?
So that's perfect segue because as we're talking about all this, I know I was just thinking, okay, so I'm sure people are kind of wondering, well, how do you know?
Yeah.
How do you know it's the mind making the decision, and how do you know it's the heart?
Yes.
So this is like my just mission, basically. I truly believe is my mission is like how I can guide and help people to be able to access the guidance of the heart and the soul. And when I say soul's dream, it basically it's being who you are, because the soul's dream is to be expressed. It's to be fully expressed in your human body here on earth while you are here. And so like any kind of portal, any kind of channel to be able to access that. So that's why I created this dream map. It's actually very short, so you don't have to be intimidated. It's very short, but it asks very key questions that I developed in meditation that help guide you to really accessing the voice of the heart. So that way that you know that your decision. So when you want to make a decision, or you're kind of faced and you kind of need additional guidance, sometimes it gets confusing out there because it's it's in the morphogenetic field, and so yeah, it's really just another guidepost, and it has some unique pointers from my own experience that can help guide you to that deeper place within, so that your decisions are resonant with who you really are, and not who someone else has convinced you that you need to be.
Wow. That is a beautiful mission. And I don't think there's anything more important than all of us to learn how to feel most alive. And I really appreciate that we started this whole process with money is not a path to freedom. It doesn't mean that it's not an important part of our lives that should be honored and it's fundamental to who we are. But ultimately, freedom comes from knowing your soul's dream and living your soul's dream. And that map sounds like just such a beautiful way to be given access to it without, getting caught up in all the other stuff. So thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your beautiful light. It's been beyond a pleasure for me. And as I said, I just can't wait for the audience to listen to this and to check out that Soul's Dream map, because I know that's what I'm planning on doing as soon as I get my hands on it.
Thank you so much, Colleen. I mean, honestly, I just want people to know you are so intuitive. There's been so many synchronicities with you, and you are definitely a guiding light. You are here for a very important reason. Just want to make sure you know that as well. And thank you for having me on your show. And I just, when we come together like this, we are creating really the world that we want to live in.
Yes. And that has been the thing that I'm realizing I just want to speak life into more and more, that like we are actually here to make this change happen. And every day that we can come to terms with these lessons and learn them and embody them and live them and choose that surrender every moment, then that's when everything can shift. And we really are, we're hitting that, that choice point in our history, in our entire, I really believe in the history of the globe. We're actually living at that time of shift. And every single one of us has to do that shift on the internal level first before they'll be able to see it reflected in the macrocosm. And it's my pleasure. It's just been such a gift having this platform to explore that, and to have you here is just amazing. So thank you, Demetria.
Thank you. Namaste.